treat to start out tonight's council meeting. And then after our special treat, we will have the flag salute and our prayer. Councilmember Palmer, will you introduce our special guests?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our guests tonight. They'll be presenting our national anthem after the flag salute. These are the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students from the Southern Nazarene School for Children. School for Children was created by SNU education professor Dr. George Beaver in 1970 when she approached academic dean C. Harold Ripper with the dream of opening a school. In 1971, the dream became a reality when the Bethany Nazarene College Board of Trustees approved the school and Dr. Beaver was given the key to Jernigan Hall, an abandoned women's dormitory where she set up classes. The school has since grown to an enrollment of 130 students, including my beautiful daughter, Kennedy Palmer, and moved into Calvary Nazarene Church at Northwest 30th and Rockwell, and offers a Christian education to students 3 years old through 6th grade. Their families come from Bethany, Moore, Norman, Piedmont, El Reno, Yukon, Mustang, and Edmond, as well as Jones. School for Children was recently accepted through a rigorous application to be listed as an Oklahoma A+ school and is fully accredited by the Oklahoma State Department of Education. School for Children participates each year in the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon and offers an after-school orchestra program presented here, taught by Ms. Pam Dowdy, who has taught all of my children in orchestra. And so without further ado, I give you the SNU School for Children Orchestra.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to live in this country, and I thank you for all your many blessings. We ask that you would please remind us on a daily basis the reason for the season that we are in and we're celebrating now. We ask that you give us wisdom and guidance and continue your blessings upon each and every one of us. In Jesus' name, amen. I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 5th, 2017. Item number 1 is the consent docket A through D. Do I have a motion or discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I have a discussion on one item, if I can find it on my agenda here. I was looking at the, looks like page 19 of the purchase order claim register, and it said that Phil Stoll purchased a membership to become an arborist. Is that correct? I thought he was already an arborist. Is that, I'm confused.
I believe that's an association membership, is it not, Phil?
Is that to get the membership?
Yes, sir. In order to become a certified arborist with the International Society of Arboriculture, you're required to join their organization. I was a certified arborist for about 13 or 14 years in a previous organization. The city manager requested that I seek, getting recertified, and that's what that's about. That's to join the organization, chapter dues, and also to apply to sit for the exam.
At the time you were hired, were you a certified arborist?
No, I was not.
I guess I'm confused. I'm not putting it down. I'm just, we were introduced and given credentials. Certified arborist, certified forester, certified horticulturist. That's how he was introduced. By JD, by you, JD. I'm just asking
Yes, sir.
him. Did you know at the time he was not a certified arborist or certified forester?
I'll have to look back at the way that was worded. I do recall that when we let me restate that. When we were hiring the position, there were certain things that were requirements, and then other things that we required to be done in a certain amount of time.
I'm just telling you, you introduced him to us that way, right here at this council. Doesn't matter how it's worded. I mean, that's how you introduced him.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a lot of other credentials here, too. I mean, which one of those are not good?
Which other ones? Your question?
Well, there's a bunch. I don't know. I mean, we can go through the list, I guess. I mean, did you or did you not know that he was not a certified arborist?
Yes, we knew that.
Why did you tell us he was a certified arborist?
I'm sorry. I'll look back at that exactly the way that was worded.
You know, it sounds like you're talking like Bill Clinton. It matters how it's worded. It doesn't matter how it's worded. I mean,
I don't recall representing it that way. But he has been a certified arborist in the past,
well, I mean,
and it lapsed for a period of time. How many years ago?
I would say about 13.
Okay.
it wasn't only verbally represented that way, it was warranted because you hired him. There's a difference between representations and warranties. You didn't represent it, you warranted that information at $90,000 a year.
I appreciate your comments. However, he was hired. He was the best suited for the job, met the most qualifications for the job.
Does he have water licenses?
No, I don't believe that was required in that
This is
job.
not a personal attack on you. Please don't take it that way. I'm an OSU graduate. Just trying to figure out words versus actions here. Wastewater treatment licenses?
No, that's been given me as our expectations by the Public Works Director to obtain those within a probationary period.
I think it'd be easier instead of going down a list of what licenses do you currently hold or certifications.
Just my Bachelor of Science degree, horticulture.
I'm confused, JD.
I'll be happy to pull the job description and go through that and
I
send
don't
you
care what
an
the job
email
description
regarding
says.
that.
I'm talking about what you told us.
I'll
What
be
you
happy to
put
go
in-
back
in
and
writing even.
I'll go back and pull that again.
As far as how it's worded, I don't know how much differently you can get unless you're looking for a way around something. I don't understand it.
I apologize. I certainly didn't mean to misrepresent anything. I think we were very excited to have Phil join our organization and highly qualified in many areas.
And there was nobody in the city of Bethany qualified.
Not that met the job description, no, sir.
that you wrote, correct?
That's correct.
That's not, that's.
I'm not
that's
sure
pretty
if this
rough.
is really the appropriate time or the place to be discussing employees.
We're discussing money, bills. And it's about if we can discuss anything that has to do with paying bills.
Did we have a motion?
No, I just had a general question, and I think we found out that at the time he was hired, he was not a certified arborist, and now he is paid $250 to apparently apply for and become a certified arborist. So that's what I needed to know. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the consent docket.
I second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is discussion with the Children's Center and engineer Mark Long regarding the Beaver Street project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Lori Boyd was unable to make it due to scheduling conflicts tonight, so she apologized for that. However, we've got all of the information. Mr. Tom Lippert of Lippert Brothers Construction is going to assist in the conversation tonight. What we intended to do through this item is go through several exhibits. It is an informational item only so that you can ask questions and we can provide answers to you. I would propose that as we kind of walk through the exhibits, if you have questions as we're going, just let me know and we'll stop and we'll address them as we go along. Initially, the background on the project is that when the new bed tower was being constructed as part of the building permit process, there was a portion of Beaver Street under the community development regulations that would need to be paved along the east side adjacent from 39th to roughly about northwest 38th Street. So about 600 feet would have been as part of the original project. Because you're building a new building, you need to, per the requirements, fix the street up on the east side of Beaver Street. This is much like the Sonic that was done. There was a piece of paving on the west side where that development occurred, and there was a brand new segment of pavement off of 39th Street. During that process, the Children's Center was interested in the potential for the city of Bethany if they were going to, based on the condition of Beaver Street, based on the use of the parking garage that's going to be fully functional within the next few weeks, Beaver Street is going to be much more heavily traveled, not only off of Northwest 39th Street, but also off of Northwest 36th Street. If you've driven on Beaver Street, there's quite a bit of condition problems. It's in bad shape. And as the Children's Center develops along the eastern side of Beaver Street, each different project will cause them to actually improve the street one piece at a time. Children's Center felt like, well, instead of doing it piecemeal, let's do it all at one time if we could partner with the city. So they were willing to pave the east side of Beaver Street along their entire frontage and then partner with the city of Bethany looking at the west side. So on Exhibit 1, you can see the title sheet. If you flip to the second page, this is a concrete street proposed. This is per the city standard details. And on the third page, you start to see a color highlight between blue and yellow. The yellow is the portion that the Children's Center frontage would be responsible for, and that extends over two different plan sheets. And the blue is the west piece, and then you can see the part on Northwest 36th Street is blue on both sides because that's not part of the piece of the actual campus right now. So we broke some footages out, and on the last page of that set of plans, there's a pink underground storm sewer pipe. Okay, that's the existing 15-inch storm water pipe that serves the area along Beaver Street. That's a very old. I don't know, Mr. Caton, how old is that pipe? It's been there a long time. 1953. So that's the existing pipe that under this paving rehab design, we were not going to impact that pipe. That pipe was going to remain in place. All we were going to do was stub a pipe in to that existing pipe into the double detention ponds that are out there on the campus itself. And that way, as drainage would overflow, it would allow that to escape out into the existing 15-inch pipe. And I will note this right now that in discussions with Mr. Caton in the city, that 15-inch pipe is undersized. Not only is it out of date, it's vastly undersized as well. The Exhibit 2 is highlighted in green. And we submitted plans and had a meeting with Mr. Caton and the city manager, and we talked about what would be more beneficial to the city. And if you look at the back page of that plan sheet, you'll see highlighted in green an upgraded storm sewer system. Now, while the street is being demolished and is being built back, it would be advantageous to the city for that storm sewer to be upgraded. Someday you will upgrade that storm sewer. And under this project of rehabilitating and reconstructing Beaver Street, the street will already be open, so it would be an ideal opportunity for the city to do that. The city requested us, and we performed a hydraulic analysis on it and determined that a 4 foot by 2 foot concrete box would be the ultimate drainage needs for the Beaver Street. Now that also takes into account the existing campus, all the runoff that's already coming off of the campus. It takes into account the fact that we have double detention ponds on the campus already that will address any other future development. But the outfall into the city system in that 15-inch pipe is undersized, and so this 4 by 2 box would address that for a future time to when you would tie into a storm sewer that goes to the west. So back in June, if you move to Exhibit 3, and that's the single page, it's engineer's estimate. In June, we prepared an estimate based on unit prices and quantities, as if based on our database that we have of unit prices from the metropolitan area. And we estimated the project, if it would go out to a public bid process, would be $678,000 roughly. And that was the original Exhibit 1 design. That was the one leaving the existing storm sewer in place. Any questions so far? Okay.
Mark, could you show me where the new storm water drainage would be installed? Because I don't see that in my,
That page was left out of the exhibits.
Okay.
So I know this may be hard to see. I apologize.
I can see a green line.
So see the green? It's basically going to be back underground, but it will be back as we tear out the street. We'll actually take up more room into the street area. So, this box will be constructed under the new Beaver Street.
Okay.
And it's 4 feet wide and 2 feet tall concrete box.
Okay.
Now, the reason it's a concrete box and not a pipe, and Mr. Caton can tell you, we don't have very much fall or elevation. And so while this is not the ideal design, it would be much better to have a larger pipe. We don't have the ability to tie into the existing system. There's not enough elevation difference. And so a concrete box structure allows us to convey that water a little bit more efficiently.
And where
Plus,
was
it's
that
very-
dump to? Where was that empty to?
There is a pipe. There's a pipe system that goes to the west, and we only looked at it to the outfall point from here, which is roughly at what, like 38th Street? Yeah, almost to 39th Expressway, and then it goes west. And then it outfalls to another set of pipes, and then there's I'll let Mr. Caton answer that.
It actually goes across Beaver, right through the middle of the Sonic Drive-In property towards Swadley's, and then it makes a northward jog up to 39th and eventually goes into an existing box culvert that crosses diagonally back across 39th Expressway and goes north all the way to the Cimarron River. So there you go.
So it's a complicated outfall, and that's undersized as well. I mean, everything in this whole system is undersized. Okay, if we can look at Exhibit 4.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question? At what point did this become undersized? Was it yesterday, or was it
I'm gonna
6
defer
months
it.
ago, or was it?
I believe, and if I'm out of turn, Mark, let me know, but I believe what Mark means is it's undersized by current development standards. In 1953, it was the bee's knees, because that was a swamp right there that never drained. So a small pipe that let it drain in a few hours after it quit raining was a big improvement. By modern standards, it's grossly undersized.
But there has been no exacerbation of the flooding problems for no other reason than the construction that has occurred between Mueller and Beaver and 38th Street and 39th Street.
We have, this will be.
This particular problem, this 15-inch pipe, along with the pipes that you're describing going to the west and to the Cimarron River, was adequate before this was built.
It's been my experience that water has ponded. There's an area inlet right there at 38th Street that's the actual terminus of the existing 15-inch pipe, and it ponds about knee-deep there in a statistically in the street. Yeah. Got pictures and everything.
Yeah.
So it's been inadequate for 75 years by current standards.
By current
Yeah,
standards.
when it quits raining, it will eventually drain down, but it takes it a couple of hours. Yeah,
We have a lot of Bethany that drains down
absolutely.
in a couple of hours.
It's not unique.
So what we're talking about here is the city funding a water storm sewer for the benefit of the Children's Center and water runoff in that area.
Well, I can answer that question. We did a master drainage study for the actual campus. The 2 detention ponds that are constructed now that were part of the expansion itself, all of that drains and works into the 15-inch pipe, okay? At this point in time, the campus can be, the current project that was constructed plus any future development will be handled by the detention ponds that are there and will go into the 15-inch pipe. The Children's Center does not need the 15-inch pipe. The reason we're talking about the box versus the pipe is because the city expressed an interest in an antiquated old pipe that is going to get covered up by new pavement, and if someday you are going to replace it, you will end up having to demo out that new pavement that should be good for another 30, 40 years in order to put that storm drainage in. So the question was, while you're doing the street.
This is on your property, or on your side of the property, and you're asking the city to replace it if it's in your property, because you are required to, by law, to replace that street or not get a permit, and you decided that's what you would do. So shouldn't you be required to do any drainage that's in that area?
Well, the Children's Center did do the drainage that was required. The drainage improvements that were required was the detention ponds.
Well, then
That's all that's required.
This is a non-issue. We just go on like it is.
Well, that's certainly something that the city can do. The do-nothing option which is where we were at in June, is you can do nothing. The Children's Center will actually pave their portion of the street along the new frontage, and we can do nothing. So that's one of your options that you can do today.
Mark, could you tell me one thing? How much is it going to cost to pave the road in this situation?
If we move to Exhibit 4, we can do that.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay. So Exhibit 4, what we've done here is we simplified the major elements of construction in items 1 through 7. We've got street reconstruction, demolition, storm sewer, general conditions, which is overhead for construction, engineering costs, and then some incidental costs associated. We in green, we highlighted what that total cost would be for the project. If you were going to go out as the city of Bethany and just build this road, go advertise it for bid, you probably would spend $729,000, which is in the green. And that would be all the way from 39th to 36th Street. In the pink, we have the Lippert Brothers without the storm sewer upgrade. So that's the original design from back in June. In that instance, it was $636,000 roughly, and that's where the Children's Center would actually be, that's that portion. And then the yellow is with the upgrade to the improved concrete box. Now, looking at the cost sharing, in the middle part of it, we've got Children's Center is based on 40% of the frontage for the Children's Center by linear footage is impacted on Beaver Street. And then 60%, so that's that blue and yellow highlighted coloring. 60% is on Bethany frontage or other private property, but so it's a 40 to 60 based on that frontage. So we did these cost breakdowns of showing that roughly if the Children's Center paid for their share of doing their entire half, it would be $285,000. And then the city's share on the original design would be $351,000. So that's basically a 45%, 55% split. The Children's Center, when this conversation came up, said they would always be willing to pay 51% of the total cost. Okay? And so if you look down at the bottom, 51% would be roughly $298,000 or $300,000. And then 49% is $286,000. So that was what was proposed at the time in June. And the Children's Center would contract with Lippert Brothers. They would do the entire project. They're already on site, so a lot of this cost of mobilization and going through a public process, a public bid process, you would be able to save the time and that cost. And so the entire project could be built and shared in that way. If you look to the right in the yellow, by adding the upgraded storm sewer box, which was requested by the city in the interest of if you ever want to replace that storm pipe, what would it cost to do it today? And that's showing basically a $533,000 cost versus the $287,000 on the Children's Center side. So it's roughly about a 70 to 30% split between that. So that's kind of where we're at as far as what the project cost. Option one, I guess, is do nothing, and the Children's Center would build a portion of Beaver Street from 39th to roughly about 38th Street on the east side only at this time. And that would satisfy the original building permit. Option two is you could do the Exhibit 1 design. Will tie into the existing storm sewer and put the street back in, or rebuild the street, and we'll rebuild the entire street from 36 to 39. Option two, which is up to you, if you want to replace the city storm sewer at this time, you can get that done, and that's what's in that pricing. And if you've got the handout that we passed out, Tom can kind of go over a little bit about what the cost of delay, if you really want to replace this storm sewer someday or soon, what is the cost of doing it now versus doing it then?
Mark, can I ask you a question first?
Yes.
Take me back to the beginning. Not to seem ungrateful for your generosity, for the Children's Center generosity, but Peniel needs it a lot worse. And why pick that street? Why are we doing this? Why are you doing this?
Well, do you want it per the building permit? Okay, yeah. Beaver is tied to the building permit for the bed tower and the garage.
Actually, this goes all the way back to 2000, early 2000s, when they did their first expansion. And this council granted them a paving covenant for not only Beaver, but also 37th Street. Mr. Shirey was correct. The do-nothing option is there. A paving covenant only means that if the city decides to rebuild the street, the Children's Center has agreed to pay their pro rata share of that reconstruction. That's been in place for 15 years or so. If the city chooses not to do that, then they would not be under any obligation to repair or replace any of the street. Is that correct, Mr. David?
If there's a covenant in place, that's what
Yeah.
those covenants say.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any site plan requirement that was tied to the current expansion that said you will replace the street. The thought of it was that with the new hospital and the parking garage and all the additional traffic because of the additional employees, that it would really put a lot of strain on that existing pavement, which was already substandard, in bad shape, and going to get worse. At this point, it would be a good time to do that. The reason I brought up the drainage to Mark was that our ordinance requires a certain amount of drainage design has to be done if you're going to build a new street in Bethany. Our old comp plan actually said you must build it to handle a 5-year storm. I think it was for Mark. Maybe I'm just not being forceful enough. Our current ordinance requires it to be built to a 5-year storm flow. My quick modeling said that a 30-inch pipe might be able to do that. Mark did some more. I agree, a 4x2 box would be great. I think we'd love to have even bigger than that. But right now we're choked by a box going under 39th Expressway that's probably never going to be replaced. So I don't know what the optimum size is, but I'm not sure that as city engineer I would be able to approve a set of plans that didn't have drainage improvements, because I'm not sure it would meet your current standard for a street reconstruction.
When you widen a street, though, I mean, if you're going to build a building and widen a street, first thing you do is you relocate the utilities and bring them up to code, isn't it? I mean, as far as that.
Again, yeah, anytime we rebuild a street, it has to be to current standards.
But a
And
contractor, a private project, if they want to widen the street or take care of the street, don't they first have to take care of the utilities? Why, moving the utilities or?
Well,
bringing them
no,
up to
you
date?
don't have, not in Bethany, you don't have to. A state requirement would be that, but in Bethany, you do not have to move them out from under the pavement. You don't have to. It's a really good idea to do that, but your ordinance doesn't require it. But your ordinance does require certain standards, and one of those is drainage, and the existing pipe would not meet that standard. So, again, as city engineer, I'm not sure I could approve these plans, not because they're bad plans, it's just that we're not bringing the drainage up to snuff like your ordinance says we're supposed to.
I agree it needs to be done, but I mean, is it the worst street in Bethany? No. I mean.
No, it's not the worst street in Bethany, in my opinion.
As far as prioritizing.
I'd like to state that it was a very opportune time to do it. I don't want to, the council obviously would decide how to spend money and where to spend it. But the thought was, SRB was gracious enough to do the engineering. We're basically getting free engineering. Lippert Brothers was already.
The Children's Center contributed that.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's get that.
Okay. The citizens didn't have to contribute it, however. It is in their spreadsheet, so I don't know how you do that. But anyway, the engineering was included. Lippert Brothers was already on site, so we wouldn't have to pay mobilization and things like that. And this is where David Davis had to get involved. I'm not sure how it was going to happen, but we wouldn't have to go through the full bid process. And so basically, the Children's Center would pay for the project, and then the city would reimburse back your share. So at the time, it seemed like it might be a good way for the city to save money. Again, you're absolutely right. If the council thinks there are other streets that need reconstructed or whatever, I'm not going to try to make any claim as to whether this is the place you want to spend your money or not. It's just, if you choose to spend it here, this is probably a good time to do so.
Out of all the different streets or areas of town that need some stormwater repair, this is the only one that I know of where anybody's offering to help us pay for the street. Correct?
That I know of.
Yeah.
Mr. Lippert, do you have a cost breakdown as to how much that would be and what we can look at if we decide to do the stormwater drainage?
I do. This sheet here that was a handout, after Mark prepared the spreadsheet, the top portion that he's gone through, my observation was, that's good, but it tells what the cost is now to do the street improvements without the improved storm drainage and the cost to do it with the storm drain improvement. And it didn't show what the future cost would be. And so I looked at the numbers from the spreadsheet, and
Let me interrupt you. I can't hear him. Do we have a microphone that works?
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I looked at the costs that Mark had prepared in the spreadsheet, and I took the, I wanted to identify the Children's Center cost. So I looked at cost item for the improvements. I took the paving cost, and this is down below under the notes, is $636,623. And we divided that by 3,400 lineal feet of curb and gutter, and then multiplied that times the 600 lineal feet that the Children's Center was responsible for, and got the $112,345. Then we looked at the storm sewer improvement cost of $203,518 and added that to it to get a total cost of $315,863 for future cost. Okay? So then I looked at the cost item marked number 4. Well, excuse me, back up. I took the cost item number 1 and of $286,956, added that to the cost item number 3 of $315,863 to get a total cost to Bethany, future cost of $602,819. So if I subtract that future cost to Bethany, the cost item marked number 4 in red, and subtract number 2 cost item from that, $454,081, you have a cost difference of $148,738. So what I'm calling this is the cost of delay, is that you'll pay $148,000 more money if you delay the storm drain improvement and do it at a future time, because you're going to incur the cost of street removal and replacement, the cost of the storm drainage, the cost of the engineering fees to put a project together and put it out to bid. And so that is a basic delay cost that the city would incur.
And for my benefit, that delay cost is roughly $150,000. But if you compare that number with the construction cost estimate with or without, that's about
$167,000, so you pay an almost double.
right. So if we decide to do the upgrade, what amount of money would we save?
Well,
You could compare that to this original engineering estimate of
Mark's saying you could compare that to the original estimate, the engineer's estimate of $678,000.
And then add the time of delay, the 150, so that's roughly $825,000
Okay, so,
in today's dollars.
right, so suffice it to say, if we decide to put the stormwater drainage in now, ultimately, we can save money by providing this service to the residents of the city of Bethany.
Absolutely. And that's why I would say that when we had our meeting with the city manager and the city engineer, and they brought this up, I didn't like it at the time because it was going to delay the project, but their wisdom shows that that decision is, or the evaluation of that cost needed to be made so that they could bring the information to you all to where you could make the best judgment using the taxpayers' dollars.
How many feet of pipe is the drainage, will the square box culvert be? I mean, it's not 3,400, is it?
No, it's, it is roughly about 640 feet.
So if we did this, let's just say that we did wait for whatever reason. JR's got us making 22% through some insurance company or something. But if we just open cut, kept a tight trench and open cut 640 feet, is that where you're getting the 602,000 is what that would be?
A lot. The 602 is.
I mean, I'm just wondering if that's where you came up with the 602,000 was if we did the project later, is that what you're estimating 640 feet of storm would cost?
No, I took the future cost to get to 602. I took the future cost of doing the storm improvement and added it to the current cost of the 286,000 in order to get to 602. And the future cost is the item where there's a red note number 3.
There's a star 3.
Star
right there.
3.
I'm on exhibit 4, I guess.
Well, look at Exhibit 8, the handout.
Okay.
So look at Exhibit 8, look down to the bottom, and where it says the asterisk 3, that's that $315,000. And then what Tom did is he added then the cost of the future cost, and that's how he came up with the 602,000.
I have a question of Steve Caton. Did I hear you say that this is holding up their building permit or their approval or anything? So they're good to go on everything they've done to date, and this is not mandatory?
No, they're ready to go. They're moved in, they're doing everything. Again, all this is tied to is the paving covenant that was approved many, many years ago. And if the city has decided they want to reconstruct that street because of the increased traffic, that they would be required to pay their half. Now, having said that, the covenant would only cover on Beaver from 39th down to 37th. From 37th on to 36th would not be part of that covenant. So, but it kind of makes sense from a traffic standpoint to go to 36 because of the way the patterns are, but that would not be covered by the covenant.
And that covenant runs forever,
30,
more or less?
21
21 years.
So it's about half gone.
And that was really the reason is the Children's Center in the future, when Bethany repaves that street, they're going to be responsible for that 40% roughly. Well, they like to spend that money now, and they like to kick in a little bit more. And the reason, what's the number of spaces in the garage?
348.
We have 348 spaces that we've basically made Beaver Street the main entry, ingress, egress for that garage. And those 348 spaces, that's going to be a lot of traffic going up and down Beaver Street, and it's not going to, right now it's not in good condition. It's not the worst street in Bethany, okay, I'm not saying that, but we've got a high volume parking garage, and Beaver Street is critical for the operation of the facility. So the Children's Center is willing to spend their part of what they're obligated under that covenant now in today's dollars.
Mr. Long, let me ask you a question. There's no one here from the Children's Center that can speak for the Children's Center. Is that correct?
Well, yes, Lori Boyd was intending to be here, but she had a scheduling conflict with the change in time.
I understand that scheduling problem. I figure this is a pretty important thing to be here for. We mentioned that earlier in the negotiations for this, that the Children's Center would be obligated for 51% of a figure that looks to be somewhere in the vicinity of $590 or so. Is that correct?
That is, yeah, approximately, yes.
Well, the new cost that came in was $729. I'm wondering if the Children's Center would still would like to adhere to paying 51% of this $729 and the city paying 29 or 49% of this $729 to get this off High Center, because you as your engineer and yourself just said, this is going to be a major benefit for the Children's Center. Can you make a decision like that?
Well, of course, I can't speak for the Children's Center, but I do need to clarify that the $729, that was the engineer's estimate.
Well, I understand that. But I'm expecting an engineer to do a pretty good job on estimating. This is just flat concrete and a straight street.
So the analysis to the right, though, is actual pricing from Lippert Brothers, which is less than $729.
Okay.
So the project isn't.
Then what I'm speaking of is a 49% obligation for the city of Bethany to do this and move on with it. Would they do that?
The Children's Center is willing to do up to 51% versus 49% for the city of Bethany in an agreement, which there's a draft agreement with the city manager that is similar to an Oklahoma County agreement with a municipality. So they're willing to do 51%, but they're willing to do the 51% based on the city's decision of either leave the storm sewer in place or upgrade the storm sewer. And we will only pay the paving cost because the storm sewer can remain the same. The Children's Center has already absorbed the double detention pond system that takes care of our campus and our future development, both current and future. The storm sewer can remain in place. The storm sewer came up because
you're gaining an immense amount of concrete that's going to benefit your organization by the pavement of that street so that you can have good egress and ingress from that parking garage. And I think this that I'm speaking of here would allow us to go ahead and do this under Lippert Brothers $636,000, which includes what you're saying is the 4x2 storm box going into a drain that will maybe or maybe not move this.
Well, I apologize. I got to clarify again. The 636, the pink is not. That's leaving the pipe in place, the existing pipe.
But do you recommend that? Does our engineer recommend that? Would he approve that?
As I said, I don't believe I could approve these paving plans without a storm sewer upgrade. I don't think it would meet your ordinance.
You have.
Having said that, I'm also want to reiterate that the covenant would only require paving down to 37th. These numbers include all the way down to 36th, which the citizens are going to be picking up the full amount for both sides of the street. So Mark has done a lot of work on different scenarios and different costs, but there's about 14 other different scenarios you guys could mess around with if you
That's
want.
right.
And so it gets confusing and all these other things with and without storm sewer. I'm not even saying the 4x2 would be the minimum cost. Like I say, my initial analysis said a 30-inch pipe would do, but we had headspace requirement. We might be able to throw a 24 right next to the existing 15 and save some money. So there are lots of ways to skin the cat, but, you know.
And a 24 next to the 15 would probably do as much as a 24 the 24 by 48 square
No,
miles.
I don't think another pipe would be nearly as much capacity as a 2x4 box, but it might meet the 5-year storm requirement of the ordinance. That's all I'm saying.
Which would allow the city of Bethany to smile and say, we've done our due diligence.
Yeah, you met the ordinance, maybe not optimally, but you did meet the ordinance. I don't want to say that for sure because I haven't run that model, but I suspect it might be true, that you could do something less than what they're proposing, but whether that's optimal or not would take a little bit more engineering.
I believe that the Children's Center is a great benefit to Bethany, and I certainly support the improvements that you have made. My question to the city manager is, can we afford to do this, and how does it impact our budget for the current year?
We currently have $300,000 in our budget for street improvements. When this matter came up, we wanted to take a look, and as Mark was talking about earlier, does it make sense for us to take a look at also replacing water lines that would go into it, that it wouldn't make sense later on if we were going to do a water line replacement and then we had to tear up streets that were put down. So we didn't know what kind of money we might be looking at until just recently when the gentleman did bring the numbers back. But right now we have $300,000 in the line item for streets, and then for the water we would need to look at maybe utilizing contingencies to cover those, to cover that.
When you say waters now, what are you speaking of waters?
He meant stormwater.
Stormwater. Okay, waters to me is something we get out of the
Yes,
river. out
stormwater,
here.
thank you.
Okay.
Mark,
But I'm also very cognizant of the $300,000 that you mentioned. We have gone there, and I must admit that there's 20,000 people in the city of Bethany, and as a person that sits on this horseshoe up here, we look at all of those people, and we have already said we would go $300,000, and Leopard Brothers is talking about 36,000 over here. But you say that's not a real hard figure. Is there a Leopard Brothers?
Yeah, Tom Leopard is right.
Can you make a deal to this $336,000?
Well, none of us can make a deal tonight.
This
no
is
one can
discussion
make a deal.
only for
This is a
tonight.
discussion item only, so that the city manager has an agreement in hand that has blanks for the city to fill in their amount and for you guys to fill in what you feel like is the Children's Center amount. We presented three
You
different
go back to your
options
board. You're
of
going to
how
have to go
do
back to your board, and I understand that. I understand
Well, really,
that fully.
it's going to have to come to you guys to decide as council what to fill in the blank for that number.
Well, obviously, we've got some more thinking to do and discussion, and possibly even more discussion with the Children's Center.
let me ask one question. You only have to go to 37th, but you're wanting to go to 36th. There must be another expansion planned.
Well, just the ingress, egress, the way the garage is set up, people are going to come out and they're, employees, visitors. You have 36th Street can serve their way to get to Rockwell or back, towards MacArthur.
So is there going to be any expansion on the 36th, the 37th, right there between Beaver and Mueller?
I have no knowledge of a planned expansion over there at this time. So, it's part of, the Children's Center owns that. There's not a master plan for that part of it yet, so.
Well,
But that's why they're saying, if we did it piecemeal, per the paving covenant that we had from 15 years ago, that was on 37th Street. They purchased those other properties along there. And if they expand from 37 to 36 on the east side, then we would meet the community development requirements at that time for whatever
We're gonna be
would
back
expand
here
to.
again, doing something like that again, though. If that, when, I wouldn't say if, I'd say when that happens.
When that happens, we'll have to put that into the project at that time.
And it will cost you more money at that time, the roll-up. So what I'm saying is, let's see exactly what you're saying it's gonna cost us, and we'll go the 51-49%.
Well, and we presented two options for that cost. so-
Well, would that go into your, could you convey that to the board at the Children's Center?
It also depends on our future plans, really.
Yes, we can convey that. Mark's here. Mark can carry the message. Yes, either way is fine.
So what we're doing tonight is having a discussion that has no action.
Correct.
There is a draft agreement that is to come back to us, but we don't know what's going into the draft. I mean, when do we make those decisions?
Well, the draft agreement has already been through the city attorney and the Children's Center. All that is left is to decide how much is going to be, what direction you're gonna go. Are you gonna do the storm sewer or not? And then, based on that, then what's that split based on these calculations here?
And we're not
So
making
when
that
do we-
decision tonight, obviously. We're just here to hear what they have to say and then us consider what we're willing to do.
But
It's
when?
gonna come down to what their future plans are.
They
She's asked
probably
when
don't
it's
know
gonna come
that.
back to us.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else seems to have their ducks in a row, and we're sitting here going, well, we're discussing this, and someday we might make a decision on it. I mean, why aren't we doing our piece?
I think the point of this evening was to hear the information and to get some direction from you all, so we know what you would like for us to bring back to you all for consideration.
So repaving from 39th to 36th Street on Beaver, currently the Children's Center is responsible for 25%, but yet they're willing to pay for 51%. I think that's a fantastic deal for the city. And I think that's where we should move forward with repavement. And as far as sewer, storm drainage, bringing that up, I think this will probably be one of the first times that we will actually plan on storm drainage for the future. It sounds like we're actually being proactive on this. Thank you. And but I think we do need to go back and just look at the budget to make sure the numbers are there for the storm drainage.
Did you say that you're willing to pay 51% from 39 to 36 now?
For the paving,
For the paving only.
yes.
And then if they expand again, would the Children's Center take 100% on of those costs?
I can't answer that.
Well, that's what needs to be asked, because this might be a moot point. They've already bought all the property up there.
I can't discuss the master plan for that piece, so I
No,
can't
it's not
do
even
that.
approved at all.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yeah, again, this is a discussion, so we're not voting on anything here, and they're not here to negotiate on the fly, so I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
So may I ask, Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, so the last comment I heard made was that would like to go ahead and look at the numbers for the street and also for the storm sewer and how that works as far as our budget is concerned. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Item 3, discussion and possible approval of new entryway signage. Do I have a motion or obviously discussion to see what we're talking about here?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to welcome David Buchanan, our Director of Public Works.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. I was asked to come before you tonight and present some options for you on the entryway signs, and we certainly have.
David, could you a little closer to the mic?
Yeah.
Take it
Is
out.
that better? Present some options for you on the signs, and we definitely have 3 here that are viable. First option, obviously, is just to go back with the regular sign, have a brand-new sign made. And that would be with the old artwork. The reason it is a little bit cheaper than the other options is because Luther Sign still has the artwork on file, so there's no design involved. So they would just need to pull that old artwork and then create a new sign. Another option that we looked at is using a wrap. Talked to Jason Sargent at GoPrint USA, and it's a wrap that we could put around the sign. It is a reflective wrap. That is a little bit more expensive, and in my opinion would be a little bit more subject to damage from vandalism. It is a plastic, could be peeled off, could be cut, even possibly hail could damage it. So I was also asked to put together a conceptual design, and I received a sketch from the city manager, and we sent it to the sign company, and they put together this conceptual design right here. Whether that's the final design we're going to go with, I don't know, but it certainly looks much cleaner, I think, is more representative of Bethany at this time. That would be my recommendation, is to go with something like this. Now, I know there was a lot of discussion about the city logo, and it was going to change. Well, that would be easily addressed by taking the current city seal and making it a separate sign that could be swapped out at such time that we come up with a different logo.
Possibly.
Possibly, yes. But those are the three options as I see it right now. Unless you have other ideas, we'd love to hear them.
My comment is that I have traveled a lot. I can't think of any city in any country in the world that has a sign with the names of its council members at the entrance to the city. And furthermore, we have them at every ward entrance. So regardless of what we do, we're paying between $3,300 and $3,800 every 2 years to redo these signs in order to change the names of whoever got elected. And I would certainly much prefer that we spend that money on streets or water or any of the other things we talk about. We have a Welcome to Bethany sign. I mean, if we want to be known as the only city in the world that has Welcome to
That's not
Bethany signs with the names of our ward members on it, so be it. But I think it's unnecessary spending of money.
Well, if you don't mind,
also makes it a
I
little
might.
more unique, like we are a unique city.
I might add that money would not be, that figure would not be correct for every 2 years. We would probably just replace the names with a placard. That type of money is a 4x6 aluminum sign that has the artwork on it. So
What are the options?
that's what we've
about
been
the
doing with
option
the
of-
tape.
What about the option of, we have this sign and there's a separate sign with the names on it? That would be
absolutely, that
cheaper
would
to
be my
replace.
suggestion. That way, as elections are held, you can take a metal plate off and then stick a metal plate back on.
We have Welcome to Bethany signs throughout the neighborhoods. Welcome to Bethany, I would, in my mind, I would find typical at entrances to Bethany. We have in the middle of neighborhoods, Welcome to Bethany. I don't know if that would be the appropriate neighborhood sign. That seems more like an entrance to the city on the major thoroughfares.
So how many years ago did they put up the original signs that were like up here? Where
I
where
do
we-
not know
It's
that
about
answer.
1999.
Okay.
Well, and that was part of, y'all that are not from Bethany, it was part of the Gateway concept, I believe, and I've never seen one right in the middle of a neighborhood.
36th Street, right in front of the water tower. They're all over the neighborhoods. 30th and
Well,
Council on
he-
30th Street. I mean,
he-
excuse me, 30th and Rockwell.
Here's my thinking on that, is
When
that
you're changing there, exactly.
that you know, if they're in the neighborhoods or main streets leading into the neighborhoods, the people that live in that neighborhood will know who their city councilmen are, and they know how to get a hold of them by going to the internet.
And that's what started this discussion.
Well,
is
then
we're
maybe
trying to
they
get
just need to go to the internet. I mean, this doesn't give you their phone number or their email address. It just says their name. And there are easier ways to find out who your council representative is.
So if there were, it sounds like there's some that don't want their name on the sign and others that might. Maybe it was just a preference whether you wanted your name on the sign or not. So,
No, I don't want to spend the citizens' money on putting my name on a sign because I think it's unnecessary. There are better ways to find out who your council person is.
I would agree with that.
I would agree with that too, but I'm gonna be here another 15 years, and I'd like to have it on there.
Mr. Buchanan, I've got a
Yes.
question for you.
Sure.
I noticed all of these proposals here have 11 signs.
That is correct.
Now, how did we come up with the number 11? What, I mean,
Number 11 was that was the signs that was in place, or that were in place at the time. So we just put the original signs back where they were.
The gateway, and then when they change wards is what it is.
Yes.
You know, when they change
When they
wards.
change wards, we only have them typically one direction. So we have one for Ward 4 going in at 36 at the water tower in front of Ellen Lyon Park as we change wards going there. But we don't have one on the opposite side of the street to represent Ward 3 because as you're leaving or as you're westbound, you're now entering Ward 3. So we're not putting them on both sides. We've just, I don't know, randomly selected
so
several
we need
places to
more than
put 'em.
11 signs?
If that's what you wanted, that would
No,
easily be
no, that is
22
not what I
signs.
want.
Yes.
How many times do they need to be welcomed to Bethany? We're only 5 square miles.
We're really friendly people, though, I think, obviously.
Robert McCutcheon says we can, on the back side, we can double up the sign. So as you're entering or leaving, you can see it all. Thank you, Councilmember McCutcheon, for that.
Your council member now is, and we could change the
Yes.
name on the back of the
This
sign.
week, yeah, okay.
I might add in one more thought on this. Of course, it's certainly your decision on how we best move forward, both with this interim measure and then long-term. But just as a reminder, we do have a branding and logo task force that's busy at work right now. They're probably looking at the end of summer, no, I'm sorry, let me restate that, at the end of spring, early summer, when they'll be finished with their work, and we'll have a recommendation to you to discuss and hash out as far as a new brand and new logo. So
Let me correct you. The citizens some of them are not very happy about that statement being repeated constantly. There's nothing saying we're getting a new logo, possible changes to a logo,
I
possibly
don't know
change,
if
not a
we
brand
even
new
have
logo.
do we even have a logo?
We don't even
we
have a
don't have a
logo.
logo, that's correct.
We're not talking about
We
city
have a
seal.
city
a logo.
seal.
Logo is, are we not talking about the logo too?
No, I was talking
And
about the
seal?
logo. The seal is what is on the sign currently. But the logo and branding committee are looking at a logo for the community, a new brand. What is it that reflects the community of Bethany? And they should be through by late spring, early summer.
But it's
and then
possible.
we have.
I mean, it's
we-
not gonna change. A done deal is gonna change.
I'm not.
We don't
tracking the
have a
question.
logo.
You're talking about, they're also looking at the seal too, correct?
No, they're not looking at the seal.
So we have
They
things on the
could if you'd
seal
like
that,
for 'em to.
I think
we
it's been
have things on the
accepted.
seal that don't exist anymore, right?
That
There
is
are some
correct.
updates that probably
We
need to
have the
happen.
airplane of the company that we're suing on our
Right.
seal.
And their name on
And
it.
their
That
yeah.
should probably be addressed.
I
then.
believe they've been used interchangeably, the seal and the logo. I mean, if we've never had a logo, then what's the rush to get one?
Branding.
Yeah, I'm
And what have we
marketing.
done with the seal? We've been branding, our
We
trucks
can
are
still
branded,
use it.
our uniforms are branded, everything's branded with this seal.
So the welcome signs help us distinguish our branding then eventually.
Yeah, they very well could be, and that's a great point. And the city council did approve the branding and logo task force to move forward in that, with that project to do that, to come up with that new brand and logo. And then also, you all budgeted and approved a budget for new entryway signage and potentially directional signage for the coming year as well. There was $50,000 for entryway signage and $15,000 for directional signage. And so that's like pointing to different types of things.
We're talking about saving money. If we've never had a logo, why do we need one? After
If it
100
ain't
years.
broke. Yeah.
I think it sets forth what represents the community to the world. I mean, how, I think it's.
We're using the seal currently.
Right. Right. I mean, so again, the brand, the logo, we can certainly invite those folks to come in and tell you about their, how they're coming along. But it is the story that the world, they see this brand, they see this logo, and that's what they think of when they think of Bethany.
But I mean, we're currently using the seal as our logo. I mean, those are semantics, I believe.
I think that's probably fair to say that they've been used, the seal has been used in that way.
Okay.
Are they working to change the seal?
That is outside their scope. They're focusing on brand and logo. If you all would like to ask them, perhaps they might consider that. But it's not like they've rushed into this. They've been after it for probably 6 months already and have another 6 months, and they're doing a lot of work. They're doing a great job.
I think they could probably just change the seal by painting the plain blue, since we do own the blue goose, correct?
I think that when we decide that we need new welcome signs to Bethany, that they should include the new logo. Meanwhile, our welcome signs are really nice, the ones that are out in the median. And if council members want to put their names, phone numbers, and everything in front of their houses on stakes, that's fine. But I just think it's a real waste of money to do signs and constantly redo them. So I make them, well, is it even? It's discussion and possible approval. I move that new signage not be approved.
I don't even understand how we can have a vote like that when we didn't have a vote to take them down. I don't quite understand that.
I distinctly remember being the person who said, now that all of the signs have most of the names incorrect, can we take them down?
It was election night.
And it was pretty much agreed by nodding of the heads. We did not vote. And I continue to think they're really ugly and out of date.
It was a passing comment. It was a fleeting comment is all it was.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I'd like to make one comment, or a request. Can you hear me on here? Okay. Would it be okay, could you get the branding and logo task force to come and do a brief presentation on their progress and explain what branding means and the difference between a logo and a seal?
Would it be okay if, certainly I would be more than happy to ask them, would it be okay if they maybe came in January to the meeting?
Yeah,
Our December 19th meeting
Yeah, I
is
don't
booked
see,
solid.
not this month. I
Okay.
think that would push it.
I withdraw my motion.
I make a motion to close discussion on this issue.
Please cast your votes.
Are we going to leave up the old signs meanwhile?
Sure.
We have a motion on the floor. Let's hurry up and vote for it so we can do that one.
We have a second? To quit discussion on this item. Yes. Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, Council.
Item 4 and 5 are both executive sessions. 4 is performance improvement plan, and 5 is the vacating an alley in oil field addition of Bethany. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
I would like to discuss this item. The last time we had an executive session, as a matter of fact, we devoted 2 executive sessions to discussing employment performance, and it was pretty disastrous. Setting aside a few minutes to discuss employment performance is totally inadequate, and I will vote no on going into executive session for that reason.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Mr. Davis and council, will you join me in the executive session? Or those.
See that right there?
Thank you, everybody.
See that right there?
No action was taken in either executive sessions.
That'll
The
just
city attorney
start your short, Shlomi.
will be getting back with us or moving forward on the alleyway
Figure that
situation.
Do we
And
let it go?
I will be appointing a committee to help with standards, developing some standards for performance evaluations for Bethany city managers. Item 6 is a call to the public. Do we have anyone that wish to address the council? Please step to the microphone, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. And please. Can you speak up?
Oklahoma. I'd just like to say thank you, first of all, to whoever is responsible for kind of upgrading and taking care of our streets in our neighborhood. I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had all these cones show up, and the city laborers were out there blowing out the cracks and resealing them. It's something that I think is, if I remember correctly, it hadn't been done in like 20 years. So it just made a huge, huge difference to our neighborhood. And I just want to thank whoever was responsible for that. And secondly, I didn't have anything else to say besides that, but I was listening to the information on the Children's Center, and one thing that kind of struck me was the proposition they're giving the City Council is really a pretty good one, I think, from first blush. Outside of any financial things that we couldn't handle as a city, it's a good deal. It's proactive in taking care of our infrastructure. But the one thing that wasn't mentioned is just the fact that you'd have a good heavy-duty street to take care of all the traffic that's going to be going through there, because the city, the Children's Center has big air gas tankers that come in there, and linen supply trucks and food service trucks, all kinds of tractor trailer rigs that will tear up asphalt. And I drive down Beaver probably twice a day because my in-laws live right by there, and I just about have to put my truck into four-wheel drive to get down it. It really is a pretty sorry road right now, and that's mainly because of the heavy traffic we get from all the big trucks that have to drive back and down through there. And you might want to consider getting a longer deal here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Kim Price, I live at 4608 North Wheeler. Lived there a long time. I got a few questions, but I only got 3 minutes, so I'm going to make it real short. First, I'd like to thank Ms. Holloway for being here still. This ambulance thing, why did we change? I lived in Bethany all my life. About 85% or 90% of people that live in Bethany live outside or work outside of Bethany. We have an accident out of there, we're going to have to pay extra now. When we didn't, it's all in our water bill. IMSA, why did we change? What was the reason for changing?
Can I address that? I know I'm not supposed to address the questions like
okay.
this, but
I'm not supposed to ask.
I don't have a problem. Our fire department, our fire chief,
They're great,
and the
yes.
War Acres fire chief, they looked into it, researched it, did their due diligence, and basically brought back to us that they thought this was the best move that we could possibly do for our citizens. And so we took their recommendation, and that's why the change took place.
Okay. I disagree. Welcome centers. I used to try to come all the time, but I didn't get to. I really don't know why we need 11. I mean, my God. If y'all got that kind of much money, go fix my street. I got a ditch in front of my house. Thank you all.
Thank you. there anyone else? Item 7 is the city attorney's report.
All my items are listed on the agenda.
Item 8, city manager's report.
I just have a couple quick updates for everybody. Just a reminder, the Waterside project is moving forward in earnest. There's a meeting with the planning and zoning on this Thursday night, December the 7th. And then we are planning a special call meeting on December the 12th for the first public hearing on the project. And then again on December the 19th, there'll be a second public hearing on the same measure, and a ordinance will be provided that evening for consideration. So I want just to remind everybody about that. Things have really heated up with the project, the Let's Get Connected project. We've been having quite a flurry of activity. Right now we are doing a lot of background work, getting ready for some public meetings in January. We're anticipating a joint meeting on January the 3rd, which would be a joint educational meeting with council. All these folks will be invited, planning and zoning, the Board of Adjustment Steering Committee, and the Bethany Economic Development Authority. On January the 10th, we're anticipating having a public meeting for the prioritization of sidewalks and pathways in our community, and some further considerations of overlays. And then the City Council, we have scheduled for that ordinance to come back and the resolution to come back to you all on January the 16th. So as I said, a flurry of activity. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Could you send those dates to us and times and so forth?
Yes, on the Let's Get Connected or the other. Okay, so Waterside, on the Waterside project, December the 7th, which is this Thursday evening, is planning and zoning. And that's at 6 o'clock, correct? 7 o'clock, I'm sorry, 7 o'clock. Then our special call meeting, the TIF hearing, is also at 7 o'clock on December the 12th. We've sent a poll out to the questionnaire out to council on the time of that. And then the regular meeting on December the 19th will be the second TIF hearing, and that'll be at our regular meeting on that night. And then for Let's Get Connected, January the 3rd in this room for the joint meeting. And we haven't established the time. What do you all think? Is 7 o'clock sound good on the time for that? Does that sound okay? And then January the 10th for a public meeting, again in this meeting for the prioritization exercise. And 7 o'clock sound okay for everybody on that as well? And then January the 16th, our regular city council meeting.
Thank you.
Could you send those to us by email?
Yes, sir. I'll send them to you by email.
Item 9 is the city council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Tonight, let's start down at Mr. Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to congratulate the SNU School for Children Orchestra. I think that was a nice highlight for tonight's meeting. I can't say enough about that school. They've been a vital part of my life and my children's education, so I'm glad they were here, and thank you for Miss Pam and all that she does and all the teachers that are there. I think I enjoyed that, and that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
The library concrete was poured today, and so be sure to drive by and look at it or watch it on your webcam. And we're now looking at the proposals for public art. We had 22 requests for packets, and 9 responded with their requests with their qualifications. So we're now looking for those for finalists. And there are 9 on the selection committee.
Thank you. Mr. Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to, in the strongest possible language that I could possibly muster up, my utter disgust with the audio system of this room. We've been hearing, oh, we're going to get it fixed, we're going to get it fixed. I've got a 10th grader techie that could do better than what we've got. And, you know, if I need to bring my 10th grader grandson here, let me know. But we're not getting anywhere from where we were a year ago. So I'd sure like to see something done here. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
I think that's in the works too, even as we speak.
Yeah, I've heard that.
True, that's true. Talk's cheap. Talk is cheap. I had a whole bunch of stuff we were going to go over, but I am with Mr. Todd. I am thoroughly disgusted with so many things that it would take too long to go into them. There'll be other venues to talk about them, but I can tell you that it's going to be agreed. I think when budget time comes along, that we're going to get away from putting down the G pay scales. We're going to put down real figures so the citizens can see the dollars as they're being spent, and not just GX. Somebody makes $140,000 a year, it's going to say $140,000 a year. 130, 120, 90, 80,000. The citizens that pay the bills need to know what they're paying the people that work for them in their city, and we're going to make sure they know that. And those that don't think that the citizens have a right to know, which there are some, they're wrong. They're just flat out wrong. It is open and free, and everybody should know everything because it's their dollars. It's not our dollars. It's not your dollars. It's the citizens' dollars. Okay, enough of that. Hello to the Kathy and Kathy. They deserve every kudo they can possibly get. They bled for the city of Bethany, and they still do. We're glad you're here. Please come more often.
Thank you. Mr. Herron?
Thank you. I have nothing tonight.
Mr. McCutcheon?
I have nothing either, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Shirey?
Well, I certainly have a lot to say. Bethany High School football team did an outstanding job this year in the Class 4A competition for state championship. And they certainly do deserve kudos because they beat the team that beat them last year and got them started. And they went within 4 points of going up against a college-based football team. The private schools have no business playing with our limited high schools that we have in the state that has to have a set district. If you go all over the state and you know, offer scholarships to play, you can get some pretty good ball players. Just go down to OU and ask. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had a question, I guess. Couple months ago, I guess, I had a concern noticing that the temps that we were hiring, or the number of temps that we were hiring, and I had a concern of the background check procedure and what was going on with that, and was told that there are background checks. I guess the temp service handles that, but then there was an issue where somebody had to be arrested that ended up having a felony record. And so I wanted to know what procedures have been put in place for the temp situation to keep from allowing that to happen again. And also, I know that's a temp agency issue, but the city also hires people, and I want to know, have we ever hired anyone with a felony, and hopefully what procedures are in place to make sure we don't do that as a city, make that mistake? Do you know that answer, or what, if we have, or what?
Well, I guess first of all, on the temp service, we did follow up with the temp service that we have been using, and they immediately put into place. They're doing background checks on all of our folks that are coming to our organization at this point. So we should have no more of that. As far as our city staff is concerned, we do background checks with those as well. And I don't know, Steve, if you know of any if we've hired any. I'm not aware of any. Are you? Okay. We'll confirm that, and I'll send you a follow-up on that.
I've got a question, Mr. Mayor. I don't think you elaborated quite enough on that. On Shannon Street, the police engaged our truck with the workers on the truck and arrested a city worker.
Yeah, I don't know what street it was on.
I believe it was Shannon and 28th or 27th. The neighbors, all in the neighborhood, know about it. And the person was a gang member. And they were from a temp service. And I remember you asking, I asked, what, if we were using Express or a notable company, and if they were doing background checks. And we were both assured at the time that they were doing background checks. And we have yet to be notified by the city of Bethany that we had someone going to our citizens' homes where our children sleep and play and coming back to a truck, and we still have not been notified of that. And I'm just wondering why you didn't notify us, JD.
That was a police matter that was taken and it was dealt with at the time.
Okay.
But the temp agency, that'd be the liability on the temp service, right? Correct? That's not a city liability issue.
But I'll follow up and I'll give you the full account of where we are with that.
Just to clarify what happened, after Mr. Harsman notified me of that, we got with the temp service and revised our agreement with them so that they're now doing a full OSBI check of every person they send over here. And that's basically what the city does on its hires as well. We use the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation tool, and of course it's tied into the NCIC, which is the national data bank. So I think that's about all you can do. Obviously you can't guarantee that somebody doesn't fall through the crack, but we did close that gap by amending that contract.
Okay. Since the
Mayor?
incident?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to jump in on this. Less than a month ago, the Air Force allowed something of this same nature to happen, but it was much, much more, it was much worse. And, these things do fall through the cracks. And I just, I don't know how we can, can do this with hiring temp employees. I think we're going to have to go back and start vetting our own employees to hire them ourselves.
Would you rather a citizen inform you, or would you rather the citizens inform you of what happened, or would you rather the city manager let you know what happened?
Well, I didn't quite hear you, but
I can say it again.
The city manager, I think we need to vet each employee that comes to work for the city of Bethany through our own procedures, and we need to write procedures for this. But they can also fall through the cracks because this deal in Texas, it was the Air Force dropped the ball on that, and I know the procedures that you use for vetting criminals in the military. It's a very, very stringent procedure.
Do you think they notified the commandant?
Of the Marine Corps?
Of whoever?
Well,
I'll bet you they did.
I bet they didn't.
They didn't. You think that there would be a situation like that and not get notified?
This isn't
Okay,
relevant.
After it happened, ex post facto.
Item 10 is new business. Is there any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 19th, 2017. With that, I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is the consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion or discussion?
So moved.
I have a question. Get a second.
I'll second.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not sure if this is directed to Mr. Caton or Mr. John there, but on page 8, we have a claims thing for environmental for the water, and we're paying out $16,719. I assume that's for monitoring the wells, but I don't know that, so help me to understand.
Yes, that went to GSI, which is our consultant out of Texas that we have hired to redo monthly monitoring of a vast array of monitoring wells up there to see what's happening with the plume of contaminants
So,
coming
Mr.
in.
Caton, how many wells would that include that we're monitoring? Is that safe to say all of them, or is that?
Oh,
not?
when I say monitoring wells, they're actually not our drinking water wells they're monitoring. There's a whole array of
Okay.
wells that are specifically out there just to monitor the water flow and the concentration of contaminant.
So this is the monitoring wells and not the drinking water
That's
wells?
correct.
Okay.
That's
all right,
correct.
Thank you. I didn't understand that.
They also provide consulting services for other things that we're trying to
Okay.
work out to.
Thank you.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 19th, 2017. With that, I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is the consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 19th, 2017. With that, I call to order Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is the consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 19th, 2017. Thanks for coming. Good night.